verses 1 through 12, printed on the cover there, if you want to read it from there, or from your Bibles. It doesn't matter to me. But let us begin. So there's one sheet right over there, Miss Julie, for you. Bench dwellers. All right. All right, let's see. I'm going to read it. You all can follow along. After Jesus was born in Bethlehem in Judea during the time of King Herod, Magi from the east came to Jerusalem, and they asked, "Where is the one who has been born King of the Jews? We saw his star when it rose and have come to worship him." When King Herod heard this, he was disturbed, and all of Jerusalem with him. And when they had called together all the people's chief priests and teachers of the law, Herod asked them where the Messiah was to be born. "In Bethlehem in Judea," they replied, "for this is what the prophet has written. But you, Bethlehem, in the land of Judah, you are by no means least among the rulers of Judah, for out of you will come a ruler who will be shepherd for my people Israel." Then Herod called the Magi secretly, and he found out the exact time the star had appeared. He sent them to Bethlehem, and he said, "Go, search carefully for this child. As soon as you find him, report to me, so that I may go and worship him." And after they had heard the king, they went on their way, and the star that they had seen when it rose went ahead of them until it stopped over the place where the child was. And when they saw the star, they were overjoyed. On coming to the house, they saw the child with his mother Mary, and they bowed down and worshipped him. And then they opened their treasures, and they presented him with gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. And having been warned in a dream not to go back to Herod, they returned to their country by another route. All right, so weeks before, we looked at the Magi. Who were they and where did they come from? Remember, who did we say they were? Who wants to give a description of what these Magi are? What do you recall? Astrologers, yeah. Sorcerers, yeah. They weren't viewed positively very often in the Old Testament. They were sorcerers. They were servants to the pagan kings often. But they were astrologers. They studied the stars. Sometimes they would think that the stars directed the world and life and everything that went with it. They seem to be sincere, though, right? Because they've come to worship this newborn King of the Jews. Where did they come from? Do you remember where we said they might have come from? Yeah, today, Iraq or Iran. They were either from Babylon or from Persia, two of the ancient kingdoms that were very influential in the time before Jesus. They led the raids on Israel, taking people into exile. So they might have been familiar with the readings and the prophecies of the Old Testament scriptures. And all of that leads them to go to Jerusalem. Because who's in Jerusalem? Why would they go to Jerusalem? King of the Jews. That's the capital. Who lives in Jerusalem? Herod the king. The monster of Christmas. What are some of the things you remember when we talked about Herod?
Paranoid.
He was paranoid. Worried about everybody taking his rule. Killed his wives. His favorite wife killed another one. Brother-in-law. 3 of his sons he had executed because he thought that they were conspiring against him. Right? So he was mad. He was crazy. He eventually dies, but he brings together all of Jerusalem's in a stir because there's a newborn king of the Jews. We got one. His name is Herod. Wasn't really the king, though, was he? Right? Did the temple, did all that stuff, but not really the king.
Well, it must have been well known, too, that he was... because he was really trying to fool people into thinking he wanted to know about Jesus.
Yes.
He was trying to mislead.
He was definitely misleading the Magi.
The Magi.
Yes.
And they must have been smart to it, though, that they snuck back a different way.
Well, it says they were warned in a dream.
They were warned.
Yeah. So God intervened. Yeah. Yeah. So Herod's this crazy guy. Now, what in the star today in the sermon, we did that one study where we watched that video about the Bethlehem star. I tried to condense it as quick as I could into my message today about the star and the Regulus and Jupiter and the constellation of Leo and what was happening during that 18-month period in 3 BC to 2 BC that was triggering these men to go and search out. Well, today we want to take a look at the gifts. The gifts and what did they mean and what did they bring. So that's what we're going to focus in on today. So over to page 2. couple questions just to chat about. The account of the Magi worshiping Jesus is told with no embellishment, right? Matthew didn't add any fluff. He just says they found the child in a house and they opened up their treasure chests, right? They're led by the star. They traveled thousands or hundreds of miles to find this newborn king, and now they worship the child in this poor village home in Bethlehem. That's where they find Jesus, right? And how old is Jesus at the time? We don't know. Under 2 years old for sure, but we don't know how old specifically he is. I would say he's not an infant. He's not a newborn, but he's probably not 2 yet either. So somewhere in that time frame. Now, first question. In what ways do you agree with the saying, wise men still seek him? You've heard that saying, right? Wise men still seek him. Tell me you've heard that phrase.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Okay. I wasn't sure. All right. So what? How do you agree with that? That old saying, wise men still seek him.
I think if you're smart, you want to know about Jesus.
Yeah. Okay, good. How else? Wise men still seek him. You want to know Jesus, yeah. How else do you agree that that's a true statement? No wrong or right answers, just your perception.
Well, when you think of Jesus, our whole yearly time is centered right around him. BC and AC.
Yeah.
So
Our
who
whole-
else in our world is, that's common.
I like that, yeah. John just said that the entire calendar system we have is based on the birth of Jesus. Now, it was off a little bit. Bishop Usher missed a little bit of the timing of it, because Jesus was probably born in 3 BC. So he was off just a little bit in his date calibrating of it. But yeah, we mark our time period before Jesus, before Christ, and ante Domine, which means after the Lord. So he's the most important person on the planet ever. Yeah. And so it's pretty wise. And you'd be foolish not to seek after him. All right.
They're gods. I mean, all these gods they worship back then.
Yeah.
They
were
They're
nothing.
gone. They're just gone.
They're nothing.
But
Yeah.
he remains.
And the worship, every idol is a false idol. Every idol is a false god. He's the only
He
one.
remains.
He's
He's
it,
strong.
Jesus. You're
He
right.
influences the world.
Exactly. So another question. What do you think came up in the conversation between Mary, Joseph, and the Magi? When they finally found the child, what do you think their conversation was? Again, it's only speculation. What do you think?
Herod's looking for you?
Yeah, I think, well, it does say that Joseph is warned in a dream that Herod is. Yeah. I don't think the wise men initially knew that until after their encounter. Because that's after they visit is when they get the warning in their dream to go back a different way. Yeah. They maybe talked about their conversation with Herod, though, right? We first went to Jerusalem. That's logically where everybody would go.
The king is.
But these priests told us to come here to Bethlehem because of this book, Micah, right? You, O Bethlehem, though you're the least out of you is going to come. So maybe they talked about their conversation with Herod and the priests and the high priest of the temple and what led them there. I think they maybe talked about the star. I think that was part of the conversation. We saw it in the sky. How'd you know the couple? We saw it in the sky. The stars announced it. Oh, wow.
We were talking about the age of Jesus.
Yeah.
Doesn't it say that Herod, after the Magi did come back, he had all the babies 3 years and under?
2 years.
2 years?
Yeah.
So then that gives you kind of a time frame.
Right. Yep. They wanted to know, Herod wants to know the exact time that they first saw the stars, that they saw the stuff. Well, the exact time would have been, they first started seeing the stuff happening in June, or what was it? I forgot. September. Yeah, September of 3 BC is when they first started noticing this stuff. No, it was August. And then September, the next time the conjunction happens, and then just a couple of months later, another. So yeah, about August of 3 BC is when they first started seeing it. And so that's probably what they're sharing with him. Yeah. So that's, he goes 2 years. So, when they first start seeing it, doesn't mean that Jesus is born that night, right? It's just a signal. So Jesus was born sometime in that period.
So why do we say BC after Jesus was born?
Before Christ.
I know,
But he was
but that he is the Christ. Jesus.
He is the Christ.
So why is it before Christ after he's born?
Well, when the calendar, it was a guy by the name of Bishop.
So he's the one who kind of screwed up the calendar.
Yeah, Bishop Usher. He's the one that began doing the dating, and he was off. Yeah, what he thought was the year of his birth, it was off because he didn't have the calendar right of history of when Caesar Augustus and Herod and those guys were alive.
Okay.
So he assumed it would be this one day, and I can't remember the time frame that Usher did that, but it was hundreds of years later. It wasn't the very next century. It was hundreds of years later. You could Google Bishop Usher and his time when he was, but it's out of my mind. It's gone. I probably knew it at one time. But good question. All right. So another question: what questions would you have asked the Magi? If you could sit down with these wise men, these Magi, what would you ask them?
Are they God-fearing and do they believe in the prophecies?
Okay. Did you come for the right reasons? Yeah.
Yes.
Everything in the text appears that they're there for the right reasons, doesn't it? Yeah. They're noble seekers. Yeah. We can't assume that, but everything in the text indicates that. Yeah, that's a good question. Well, why'd you come? What was the real reason? Yeah. What other kinds of questions would you want to ask the Magi? If you could.
Well, they traveled for a long time.
Right, they did. Was it worth it?
Pardon?
Was it worth it?
Well, it was, but
Yeah.
yeah. And I'm going to ask about their accommodations and
They lived in tents. They were tent dwellers. Yeah. They followed the common road. So maybe they at times stayed in guest houses, rented a spot to stay. More than not, most people traveled and they lived in tents as they traveled. They were sojourners. Well, just some fun questions to think about. So number 2, according to Luke 1, we know that Luke used many eyewitnesses as sources for his orderly account of Jesus' life and teachings. Now, one of those eyewitnesses had to have been Mary. So if you could question Mary anything about concerning the birth and the childhood of Jesus, what would you ask?
Were you scared? During all of this, were you,
Yeah.
how
Through
frightening
the
it must have
conception to the birth, even after the birth, were you afraid? Yeah, good.
Well, that one day when Jesus was born, first the shepherds show up and want to worship him, but also that spectacle with the angels would have been quite an event, I would think.
Yeah, the angels in the fields. Now, whether she saw the angels or not, we don't know. But the shepherds told her about the angels, right? Yeah. And they told everybody in the village about what the angels had said to them and what they had heard from the angels about the child. Okay. What other kinds of things? Any questions? Did you know that was God eating your soup?
Yeah.
That was God eating the soup that she made.
And you wonder about his schooling?
Yeah.
Like a regular school. Did he go kindergarten through, 12th grade or whatever?
No, but,
No, but I mean,
he would have gone to synagogue school.
Mhm.
Yeah, he would have gone to synagogue school. He would have been taught the commandments. He did know how to read and write. We can assume that because we know that his followers had that basic knowledge.
Well, he read the scrolls and
He read the scroll, yeah.
He was on
He could read, yeah.
Yeah,
He was multilingual
12, and he was.
at the temple at 12. Yep, that was the only childhood story that we have of Jesus. So, some other questions that you think you might ask Mary about Jesus' childhood or about the birth.
was he naughty?
Naughty.
Did he go through the terrible twos?
I mean, he cried, right? He wasn't just meek and mild, made no sounds. He was a baby. He needed to be changed. He probably got pimples. Got a cold. He got sick. What did he yell when he hit his thumb with a hammer?
Did it hurt?
It would have hurt,
Did it
definitely.
piece you?
Yeah.
Did
Yeah.
he know?
Yeah.
Did he know that
What did he look like? What was the expression on his face when he watched an animal be sacrificed? When he saw the lambs being sacrificed, what was going through his
He
face?
seemed to know all of
Yeah.
his future.
Right.
I would be curious when he would receive his powers, like, he changed at the wedding when he was older.
First miracle, yeah.
But could he do things like that when he was younger?
Well, there are gospels. They're made up gospels. The Gospel of Philip and the Gospel of Thomas. Have you ever read the Da Vinci Code stuff? That's his big thing, is that there's these other gospels. And the church has always rejected them.
That were never accepted.
Yes,
into
and they have accounts of Jesus' childhood, where on the flight down to Egypt, when they leave, we'll read that next week, when they go down to Egypt, and they're as refugees, they're getting hungry, and so toddler Jesus, 2-year-old Jesus, points at the fig tree, and it bends over, so that Mary can pick the fruit from it. And probably didn't happen. There's accounts in those stories as well that Joseph is at the carpenter shop, right? Well, what's one of the first rules of carpentry about cutting and measuring?
Twice.
Measure twice, cut once, right? Well, Joseph apparently didn't do that so good, and he would often have pieces that were too short. Well, the fact is he probably didn't build tables and chairs out of wood like we do in carpenter shop. His being a carpenter, he made plows. He didn't make furniture. But the people who are writing this story hundreds of years later, making it up, evidently when Joseph would not have measured correctly and the pieces would be short, Jesus would just touch it and
With miraculous.
come to the right length.
Yeah.
So those are accounts of Jesus that probably are not, they are not accurate. Yeah. Jesus never used any of those powers for his own sake, right? He didn't use them for his own favor or advantages. Yeah. Oh, good. So just some speculative questions. Number 3. Now let's talk about the gifts. The Magi opened the treasures they brought for the king, and the gifts were gold, incense, and myrrh. And in the kids' message, you heard me tell, right? Gold is for that's traditionally, we 3 kings of Orientar, I think they talk about that, these images of the 3 gifts each one brings. Gold is a gift for a king. Incense, for God. That's often what it's attributed as God, because of the incense, right? It's something we don't use in our congregation. There are Lutheran churches that use incense. It's awful. I hate the smell of it. But the Roman Catholic churches quite often use incense, right? Nothing wrong with it. I just don't like the smell. But the psalm verse from Psalm 141, this is actually part of our evening prayer in our hymnal. There's a chant that goes, may my prayer be set before you like incense. May the lifting of my hands be the evening sacrifice. So what does incense do when it burns? It makes smoke, and the smoke rises up, goes up. And so our prayers go up to God, like the incense goes up to God. So the gift of incense often is attributed as this is a gift for God. And then finally, the last gift is myrrh. Myrrh is often attributed as a gift for sacrifice because myrrh, a very expensive spice that was used quite often in the funeral preparations. Let's look at John 19. John 19, verse 38. So this is at the death of Jesus. And I'm going to start at verse 38. Page. Got it? All right. The burial of Jesus. Later, Joseph of Arimathea asked Pilate for the body of Jesus. Now Joseph was a disciple of Jesus, but secretly because he feared the Jews. With Pilate's permission, he came and took the body away. He was accompanied by Nicodemus, the man who had earlier visited Jesus at night. Nicodemus brought a mixture of myrrh and aloes, about 75 pounds. Taking Jesus' body, the 2 of them wrapped it with the spices in the strips of linen. This is in accordance with the Jewish burial customs. At the place where Jesus was crucified, there was a garden, and in the garden a new tomb in which no one had ever been laid. Because it was Jewish day of preparation, and since the tomb was nearby, they laid Jesus there. So in a borrowed tomb, they prepare the body, and what did they wrap it with? Myrrh. Linen strips and myrrh and aloes. So this myrrh, strange gift for a baby. All right? So, 2 questions. How are each of these gifts appropriate to lay before the Christ child? And do you think the Magi knew the significance of their gifts? So why are they appropriate gifts for this Christ child? Because Mary and Joseph, if you would have asked them, would have said, a box of diapers would be nice.
Well, it has financial value. There maybe, they're gonna, they had to go to it, doesn't say it here today, but went to Egypt.
They did. So maybe the gold came in handy for that.
Well, and the spices were valuable as well.
Very valuable. Yeah. So they could maybe have traded it as a commodity.
Yeah, they were very common, so they could get rid of it if they needed to.
Yeah, myrrh was expensive. So if they did, they got, they probably didn't get full price for it, but they got black market value for it. Yeah. What was appropriate about those gifts for this child?
Well,
Huh? What do you mean by that, Miss Julie? She said it's a prediction. You got to speak louder because us on this side of the room can't hear all this. Okay, right, Bonnie? I see Bonnie doing this every once in a while. I'm with her. You need a little louder. What'd you say?
It's a prediction of what Jesus will require.
Yeah. Especially the myrrh becomes very prophetic. Yeah. The myrrh is the most prophetic.
well, and gifts that you would bring a king or that are for God
Yeah.
are,
Yeah.
and that's telling you right there.
And they are seeking the newborn king. Now, the fact that they bring incense doesn't necessarily mean that they understand this child to be God. Why they bring incense, we don't know. Maybe they do think that he is God, but we don't know. Because do you think they knew the significance of the gifts, these three gifts? Do you think that they really understood what they were bringing and what it would
It
mean?
was commodities that had value that,
I do too. Yeah, I think it were just valuable commodities. I don't think that they really had a full understanding that this would be what Jesus would accomplish. He wasn't
Living in a
king.
part of the world that they lived, it would be that, it's like in Wisconsin, if we're gonna travel a long distance, we're probably gonna take some cheese.
And spotted cow.
Yeah, but we're gonna take things that are considered valuable,
Yeah.
that people away from us don't have.
Okay, Mr. Logan, what do you think?
Well, I was just going back to, they first traveled to Jerusalem looking for a king. And if they were looking for like a real king in their
Yeah.
minds, these things might have been what they were bringing to there.
Yeah.
And so if they didn't find that king there, well, they still had these things, so
Yeah.
they just kept going with them.
So, they're not just visiting
They didn't
an
realize
ordinary
it was
child born.
yeah.
They really believe this is a newborn king, right? Somebody of significance and importance that the stars are announcing, right? A ruler of some sort that God's promised. Yeah. And so, yeah, I think that's really insightful that these gifts, it's not just like, dropping off a newborn gift like, here's the diapers, right? This is a regal birth that they've come to acknowledge, that the stars have announced to them.
Do you think they took it to impress?
I don't know. Maybe not. I don't think so. I think it was just, I think it was because it was royal and they were just struck by this, right? The stars, they really believed that this was a newborn king that the stars had announced, that had been written about in scriptures, and that's what kind of pushed them to go that way and see them. Now, there could be some fulfillment to it as well. In that reading that we had from Isaiah 60, from today's reading, about how, well, let's look at it. I can't remember it exactly off the top of my head, about how the people are going to come by camels, and they're going to bring the wealth of the nations. So let's take a look at Isaiah 60.
I can't imagine what King Herod was thinking when they Oh, somebody's gonna take my place?
Yeah, well, that's why he's all paranoid. Yeah, that's why he wants to know about this stuff. So Isaiah 60. I'm going to start it. Well, this is arise, so your light has come. I'm going to start in verse 5. Okay, Isaiah 60, verse 5. And then it says, "Then you will look and be radiant. Your heart will throb and swell with joy. The wealth of the seas will be brought to you."
Say what?
Isaiah 60. Sorry, Ms.
I
Bonnie.
thought it was 1:6. Sorry.
Page 1106 we're on.
Got it.
Got it. All right. Verse 5. "Then they will look and be radiant, and your heart will throb and swell with joy, and the wealth of the seas will be brought to you. To you the riches of the nations will come." Well, who are the nations? Gentiles. Yeah. And who are the Magi? Are they Jews or Gentiles? Gentiles. Yeah. "And herds of camels will cover your land, young camels of Midian and Ephah. And all from Sheba will come, and they will bear gold and incense, proclaiming the praise of the Lord." So it could be God just prophetically prompted these men to bring 2 of those gifts of the gold and incense, because this is what God has said going to be happening.
So the Magi went and read these.
They might have too. They might have known Isaiah. They were probably more familiar with the books of Moses than the prophetic writings. But they might have had the prophetic writings. But they for sure would have been familiar with the books of Moses, because those were the books, scrolls, that when the people went into exile, they took them with. Isaiah 60 is not probably as familiar because it's Isaiah 60 is actually written during the time of the exile. So whether they had those copies or not, they might have. So they might have known that too. Yeah, they very well could. To say that for sure, we can't. But yeah, they might have. Or God simply prompting them, even if they didn't know. All right. Well, good questions. All right, let's go back. Question number 4. A premonition of danger and death enters the nativity account. To avoid Herod, the Magi are warned not to return to Jerusalem. Instead, they head home by another way. And when the infant Jesus is only 40 days old, presented in the temple for his redemption and Mary's purification, old Simeon foresees an evil and death lurking behind the Messiah's arrival. Right? So already with Jesus' nativity account, we get this fact that some people knows he's destined to die. So let's take a look at how Luke puts it in Luke chapter 2, verse 33 to 35. So this is one of the 2 infant stories that we have of Jesus, childhood stories. They're both in Luke chapter 2. It's 40 days after his birth, and Mary and Joseph bring their 40-day-old baby, which you know what day of the year that would be in our liturgical calendar? February 2nd, which is also... No, it is Groundhog's Day. But in the liturgical calendar, it's the presentation of Jesus. It's 40 days after Christmas. It is Groundhog Day. That's what I was seeking. But it is in the liturgical, very liturgical churches, they called it Candlemas. Candlemas, where the candles for the year would be blessed. It was the Mass for the candles. When Jesus is presented, he comes as the light of the world, right? And that's a very Epiphany theme. So, but at any rate, they come, and Simeon is prompted by the Spirit to come to the temple that day. And when he sees the child, he grabs the child and says, "Lord, now let your servant depart in. For my own eyes I have seen the glory of the Lord and my salvation." Da, 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 da. And we sing it after communion. And then he looks at Mary, verse 33 to 35. Somebody want to read those verses, please?
The child's father and mother marveled at what was said about him. Then Simeon blessed them and said to Mary, his mother, "This child is destined to cause the falling and rising of many in Israel, and to be a sign that will be spoken against, so that the thoughts of many hearts will be revealed, and a sword will pierce your own soul too.
So this one that I'm holding here, your newborn baby, 40 days old, Simeon prophetically sees he's going to be the rising and the falling of many. He's going to upturn the world, and what's going to happen to Mary?
Her soul will be pierced.
What do you think he means by that?
She's at
Oh,
the crucifixion.
She's going to be there at his death. And Simeon prophetically sees all this stuff. So, what do you think Mary and Joseph thought as they heard these warnings? Maybe the Magi told them about their dream, right? We think Herod's up to no good. And Simeon at 40 days, I think the Simeon thing happened before the Magi, but I don't know for sure. I'm just assuming that they don't arrive before Jesus is 40 days old. But we know at 40 days old, this event did happen. Jesus in the temple, right? So,
This life isn't just going to be a bed of roses. There are going to be struggles.
what did we get ourselves into?
Yeah.
I don't know. What else do you think they're thinking about this one?
Then they would have had to travel from Bethlehem to Jerusalem.
It's only 6
And then
miles.
back again.
It's only 6 miles.
Huh?
Bethlehem to Jerusalem is only 6 miles.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no problem. That wouldn't have been a long. They didn't hop in the minivan. They walked, right? But it's a walkable in a day. You could walk to Jerusalem, spend the night, walk back the next day. Yeah, it's not like Nazareth, right? That was a
That was
90-mile journey, so that was not done so easily. Yeah. But going to Bethlehem to Jerusalem and back, that could have been easy.
Well, that was kind of why they took that journey. I mean, they wanted to get far away from all of that, didn't they?
Well, we're going to read that next week. They're in Bethlehem, they're going to next week we're going to read how they go down to Egypt to escape Herod, right? And when they find out Herod's dead,
And
they go back, and they chose not to go to Bethlehem, but they go back to Nazareth because they don't want to be close to that Jerusalem stuff. Because Herod's dead, but his son Archelaus is now the ruler, and he's just as crazy. So what do you think? What else do you think they might have thought about when they're hearing all these warnings? This is not going to be easy.
How can we protect him?
Yeah.
They would wonder.
Good question. Great answer. How do we protect him?
How do we keep him safe?
Yeah, we got to keep him
That's
safe.
parents' first thought.
Yeah.
You know.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Just keep them safe. So they're going to flee. They're going to go to Egypt at first.
That's the first
Yeah,
thought.
and then on return, they're going to stay as far away as they can from Jerusalem. Even though they made the yearly journey to Jerusalem for the festivals. Jesus at 12 in the temple. That's why they're there for Passover. Yeah. Anything else? Any thoughts? Again, it's speculation. We don't know for sure, but those are great answers. All right, last question on page 2 there then. The last bullet. God's own Son left paradise to risk joining the human experience. He's literally Emmanuel, God with us. Despite the threats against his young life, Jesus isn't scared off. But he stayed with people. He stayed with us, right? So what does it mean that we have a Savior who will never leave you no matter the dangers or threats? What does that mean for us?
A sense of peace,
Okay.
comfort.
Yeah. What else?
All our little problems aren't anything for him. So
Puny stuff for God. Now imagine if you were in a place like Nigeria, right? Where Christians are being actively persecuted still. Or in many of the places in the world where Christians are very persecuted. And in Jesus' day, or the early church, they were persecuted for 350 years until it became legal. What do you think it meant for them? That they had a Savior who himself faced all those things, and yes, it wasn't scared off, but stayed with it.
inspiring.
I think it was inspiring. I think it encouraged them. Yeah. Well, Jesus, in fact, predicted it. It's one of the marks of the church to be persecuted. It's one of the marks of the church. Jesus said, "You will be persecuted for my name's sake." Right? So when it happens, don't be surprised. But I walk through it, so will you.
I always think of the Romans was a crucifixion, where they were in the arena,
The Colosseums.
Coliseum,
Yeah.
and they were there for entertainment, being killed.
Yeah.
I mean, how much courage it took to.
Yeah, there's a story of a saint called Perpetua, and it's a 2nd century story. So it was not the immediate generation after Jesus, but the following. And she's a young girl who's just become a mother. She's a Roman citizen, married to a very prominent man, becomes a mother, newborn, and she's also become a Christian with her slave and some of her extended family. And it was during one of the persecutions by Domitian, one of the emperors, and she was arrested, and her father pleaded with her to deny Jesus, right? Deny being a Christian, spare your life and the life of your child. She wouldn't do it. She remained faithful. And she said to her father, looking at a vase in her prison cell, "What is that?" "Well, it's a vase." "Well, can it stop being a vase?" "Just because, no, nor can I stop being a Christian," she said. And when she was brought in front of the governor for her trial, her father again came, pleaded on her behalf. The governor even said, "Just do the emperor sacrifice thing. Just do it, and we'll spare you." No, she wouldn't. So eventually he had to condemn her. So she was carted off to the Colosseum with all the other who were rounded up, her slave girl, who was her friend, but her slave as well, her servant. And they were, the 10 of them were brought into the Colosseum, and first the animals came at them. The account was a bull gouged her with its horns, and then the leopards came, but it wasn't happening quick enough, so the gladiators came in and got them all off as the crowd cheered for the blood. And that story is told because of an early church father who witnessed it, recorded it. Mm-hmm. And I tell that story we read that story with my confirmation kids, because that's what it means to be an I believe person, which is what confirmation's about, right? Reaffirming creed, what you believe. And she was willing to do that to the point of death, which is one of the questions in our rite of confirmation. Will you be faithful even to the point of death? So it's a fascinating story. You should look it up and Google it and read it. Perpetua. It's on Google. You just Google it, you'll find it. All right. So let's go to page 3. 5th question. Let's talk about giving gifts. We know what gifts the Magi brought the child. If you were led to bring the child gifts, what would you offer? Clothing. Yeah. What'd you bring, newborn kids? Yeah. What other kinds of stuff would you offer?
Food.
Food. Yeah, very practical. Baby food. Definitely. What other kind of stuff? Diapers? That's what the little boy who, his mom just had a baby. She goes, that's what I think Mary and Joseph really would have wanted, was diapers. But it's humorous, but it does kind of make the point too, right? The kid really got the point that this was a real human being. Not just God, but a real human being. No, I don't want that. Read my computer. Oh, I gotta show you something. So are y'all familiar with the story Red Boots for Christmas?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to show you a little clip. So this was back from the 1995 time frame. Lutheran Hour Ministries. There's this old story called Red Boots for Christmas. It's about a shoemaker in Middle Ages Germany, Hans the shoemaker. He's a grumpy bachelor man. He just runs his shoe business and kind of grumpy guy. But he's visited by an angel who says, you're going to get good news this Christmas. God's got a great gift for you. And of course, anytime you get a gift, you've got to do what?
Give a gift.
You want to be a gift giver too. And so the whole story is about Hans struggling to figure out what he's going to give God for Christmas. Right? And so the shoemaker, first of all, goes to this gift shop, and then he's not happy with it. And after that, he's going to meet this poor grandma woman from the village who's got her granddaughter with him. And I want you to listen to that exchange. So this is called Red Boots for Christmas. Like I said, 1995 is when they put it out. Lutheran Hour produced it. It used to be on network TV when we only had 3 channels. Right? So let's see if I can make it go. No. Come on. Give me full screen. There we go. Oh, don't start from the beginning, though.
Meet the most insightful way to never scoop again. Litter Robot 5 Pro, the next gen.
Thank you. No. It's nice, but I must have your very best. This sculpture is perfect. Seems to be real, does it not? I think I've seen it somewhere before. Don't you have something different, something beautiful and exciting and special?
Come, Hans, I have just the thing.
But that's just a simple box.
Think so? Watch this.
It's amazing.
Papa, look!
Oh, Mr. Mayor, Adelaide, how lovely to see you.
Gustav, what is this?
Why, it is...
That is my gift, Papa. I want that music box.
No, wait, I want to buy it. Here, Gustav, you can have all of my money.
Whatever he has, Gustav, I will pay more.
But...
Sorry, Hans.
Oh, Papa!
How about one of these other music boxes, Hans? This one is nice.
You don't understand, Gustav. It must be the very best. I will keep looking. Please, let me help you with that. Gretchen, you like to exchange gifts at Christmas, don't you?
Yes, if they are given in the right spirit.
Well, what gift would you give to someone very special?
Oh, that depends on who it is, Hans.
Well, it is God, actually. What would you give to God for Christmas?
I would give him what I give him every day. My sins for his pardon, my weakness for his strength, my sorrow for his joy.
Well, that is not exactly what I had in mind.
Think about it, Hans. Ponder it in your heart. You will know what to do.
That's it. Thank you, Gretchen. Elsa, you have saved the day. What?
All right. So, did you get what Gretchen said? What would she give God for Christmas? Do you remember what she said?
For sins to forgive.
My sins for his pardon. My weakness for my sorrow for his joy. So you'll hear that in the sermon somewhere along the line, I'm sure. But not because it's already over Christmas. So Hans says, no, that's not what he had in mind. Now, what did they keep panning down to? Do you see? The little girl's shoes. That's the first scene, right? She had little holes in her shoes. Yeah. And now she's holding them again, putting her fingers through it. And it's winter, so it's cold. And Hans, it inspires him. You know what Hans decides to do, to give? He goes back to his shop where he's kept this piece of red leather for the most special things that he can make. Because he's a shoemaker. He's a shoemaker. So he's going to make red boots out of this best leather he's ever had. That's going to be the gift. He puts it in his window. Well, guess who wants that gift?
The mayor.
The mayor. For who? For little Adelaide's got to have these red boots, right? And Hans won't sell them. No. And the mayor gets mad, and Hans is going to save them for God. Because that's the gift. You got to give the best to God. Well, spoiler alert. Spoiler alert. Guess what happens at the end? He gives the red boots to the little girl. Yeah. The little girl who's got those terrible shoes. Even Adelaide's crying, I want those boots. No, these are for God. Well, when the angel comes and tells them, from heaven above to earth below, right? That he sings, Hans sings the from heaven above. Bonnie doesn't like that hymn. Not all 15 stanzas. I get you. Then he's inspired. He realizes that God's given him the best gift of all in Christ. You don't got to give God back red boots or whatever it might be. The best, he does the best by giving it to a little girl.
She needs new socks.
She does. Yeah. Spoiler alert! Now I ruined the whole video for you. So, all right, but it's good. It's really. Guess what? It's not on anymore. You can't. You can find it on YouTube, but you're not put on CBS. Channel 7. We used to carry it every year in the 90s when they first put it out. Yeah, and that's when Lutheran Hour paid for it and stuff like that. So pretty cool. All right, that's Red Boots for Christmas. Number 6. Tradition tells us that our gift giving at Christmas time is rooted in the Magi's gift given to Christ child. So in light of that, why do we give gifts? And why do we not give gifts to some and yet others? And how do we decide? I know you all do gift giving, so it's something.
Yeah.
Tell me you haven't.
Depends on your budget.
Okay, it does, yeah, that's real. Depends on your budget, obviously.
How much?
Yep.
That's a choice.
Okay, so that's part of the decision making, sure.
We give gifts to make people happy and show that we love them.
That's a great
God
response.
gave to us.
And God gave to us,
Mm-hmm.
and so we give gifts to people that we love. We want to make them happy, feel joy. Yeah, those are all good things. What other reasons do we give gifts?
Well, I think it makes us feel good.
Yeah.
I mean,
You ever
enjoy seeing their surprise, whatever. But I get, personally, more fun out of watching everybody open than
Sure. Yeah. Feels good to get
Feels,
something.
yeah.
I like it. So, a little different spin on this question. B, what spiritual things can happen when gifts are given at Christmas? Or maybe they can't. But what do you think? What could be some faith-based kinds of things that happen when gifts are given?
You acknowledge what you've been given.
Yeah, so it's a response, an acknowledgement. Did you ever give gifts? Heifer International did it. Now Compassion, some of the mercy ministries in the world where you give a gift of baby ducks to a family in Indonesia in honor or a memory. Like my parents, when we were doing gifts with my parents still, we just finally decided they don't need more stuff, right? So we would always give them, and it would come on a card, and they put it on the refrigerator. I thought it was the greatest thing. We gave a gift of a goat to a family in Uganda through Heifer International. And so they thought it was great, and it tells you about what that family does with the goat and stuff like that. Yeah.
And sometimes the more you give, the more you get in return. Not maybe, not as in a gift, but
Right.
just
The sense of
the sense
joy and and the fact that you helped somebody. Yeah, excellent. All right, number 7. Far better than the Magi's gifts to the child is God's gift to us of his Son, and his Son's gift to us of his life in place of ours on the cross. So in view of that, does a gift exchange add or detract from the gospel message? Do gifts exchanges at Christmas add or detract from that?
Well, it's always in the thought behind it.
Yeah.
It
What can
depends
detract from it?
Well,
If
it's
it's
so
on
busy with
yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
And forget about
Yeah,
what
you
the
can be
giving-
consumed about the gifts. Yeah, forget about the giver. Yeah. So it can be distractive, right? I think it can be. We think we all acknowledge that. It can definitely detract. We used to have, when the kids were littler, when we would open Santa Claus gifts, after we would always start Christmas morning, usually at 5 in the morning or earlier, because I had to get to Christmas morning services and stuff. And they were awake. The rule was they couldn't wake us up till 5. We were awake, but we heard them. And then we would all do our Christmas, light the Advent candles and do the devotion. And then we could start opening. We'd open a gift, and before another gift could be opened, we'd open one at a time, right from now. Before another gift could be opened, we have to sing a Christmas hymn. And then each kid had a pick. So, we're singing about 7 or 8 Christmas hymns. Not the whole hymn, just usually the first stanza. We did, that was one. We could have done all 15 verses. But we did use, Heaven Above was one. We usually could remember the first 2 stanzas. And then after that we couldn't. But my kids know the first stanza is almost every Christmas and Advent song there is. Just because they had to sing one before they could get another gift. So yeah, there's ways of doing it where you can add some meaning of it. So B, the 7th question, number B. What motivates you to give gifts? What is it that motivates you to give gifts? Guilt?
Appreciation.
Appreciation. It's a good gift. That's good
It
motivation.
is, I don't wanna say guilt, but it's like the knowledge that we have so much
Okay.
that to give is better.
Sure.
That-
Sure. Yeah. More blessed to give than receive. Yeah.
Give gifts out of love.
We give out love. Yeah. Sometimes there's expectations too, though. There is. I bet you don't want to admit it, but I know that there is because sometimes there's expectations. Yeah. Yeah. What other kinds of things? Love, the joy, the giving, expectations. The fact that we've got so much, that's a good thing. C, how wise is it for Christians to participate in gift exchanges at the office or school or among families and friends?
Doesn't pay attention.
Exactly, it has an intention. If it's simply out of expectation, well, maybe not, right? If it's, you got to give something, you give something to me, so I got to give something to you, right? Big Bang Theory, everybody a fan of the Big Bang Theory? Yeah, so the Christmas episode where Sheldon, he's the eccentric guy, he doesn't want to get involved with this gift exchange thing, so Penny's going to give him a Christmas gift, so he's got to give her a Christmas gift. So he goes to Bath and Body and he buys every single basket that there's there because he's not sure. He's got to have, his thing is, if you give me a $10 gift, I have to reciprocate with that, right? And so he's got everything covered, he thinks. And she comes, and you remember what her gift was to him?
Autograph on a napkin or something.
Yeah, you're a fan!
It was just on there.
You're a fan, yes! Dude, I love it, John! She gives him the gift of Leonard Nimoy, who played Spock from Star Trek, right? Spock. And that's his favorite character. He thinks he's Spock.
Yeah.
And it's his napkin from the
Pie factory.
the Cheesecake Factory where she's a waitress. And he had wiped his mouth with it, and she kept it and gives it, and he freaks out. And he runs to his room, and he brings out every single basket and pours it on her. And then he gives her a hug. And that was the Christmas gift that she wanted the most. John Kabinski.
Surprise us all.
I love it. All right. I don't remember. We can just close on that. D. How can we make gift giving more meaningful and reflective of Christ's self-giving love? What can we do to help it to have some more meaning for us when we are gift giving and exchanging gifts?
Well, there was a parable that Jesus had. He was questioned something about what they could do for him, and then he says about whenever you do something for somebody that's in need, you've done it unto me.
John, you're just stealing all my thunder. So let's go to question number 8. And let's look up Matthew. Let's look up Matthew 25. It's like John and I planned this. Matthew 25. If you got one of your red letter Bibles, the whole chapter's red letters. Matthew 25, and we're going to start at verse 31. This is the third of the parables that Jesus teaches in Matthew 25. The first one's the 10 virgins live expectantly, always waiting and watching. The parable of the talents, the 3 servants who get the talents, and one buries them and does nothing, and the other 2 put it to work. Right? Live responsibly with what God provides you. And then live compassionately is verse 31. Jesus said, when the Son of Man comes in his glory, all the angels with him, he will sit on his throne in heavenly glory. Sounds like Judgment Day, right? And all the nations will be gathered before him, and he will separate the people one from another as a shepherd separates the sheep from the goats. And he will put the sheep on his right and the goats on his left. This is Judgment Day. Then the King, Jesus, will say to those on his right, come, you who are blessed by my Father, receive your inheritance. Right? You didn't earn this, right? You don't earn your inheritance, you receive it. So receive your inheritance, the kingdom prepared for you since the creation of the world. And then they're going to be commended. For when I was hungry, you gave me something to eat. When I was thirsty, you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger, you invited me in. I needed clothes, and you clothed me. I was in prison, and you looked after me. I was sick, and you looked after me. I was in prison, you came to visit me. And the righteous will answer, Lord, when did we see you hungry and feed you, thirsty and give you something to drink? When did we see you a stranger and invite you in, or needing clothes and clothe you? When did we see you sick or in prison and come to visit you? And then he will say, the king, I tell you the truth. Whatever you did for the least of these my brothers, you have done for me. So John was pointing towards this question here, which is number 8. So none of us can really give gifts directly to Jesus, like the Magi did. How can we bring indirect gifts and direct them towards Jesus?
Helping other people.
Living compassionately.
Food pantry.
Food pantry. Heifer International. Compassion International. That's what we do. When the kids were little, we said, okay, a little less Christmas this year, everybody. It wasn't much, because we were going to adopt a kid from Ethiopia. And then we sent our check monthly to support that child. We still have, we're on our 4th one now. We keep it up. I think she's probably almost aged out, Miriam. She's probably 18 pretty soon. So we'll be looking for assigning another child pretty soon. But yeah, I'm going to do the least of these. You've done it to me. You know what Mother Teresa called this? She called that's Jesus in his distressing disguise. Jesus in his distressing disguise. What do you think she meant by that?
That's how we're helping. That's how we're showing Jesus that we're giving it to him, is by giving it to others.
In fact, Jesus is all around you, she would say. Just look. In the people who have need, there's Jesus. That's Jesus. In his distressing disguise. And when you boil it down, there's just 2 people in this world then. Actually, it's just you and Jesus, or in a way, it's just Jesus. Because if you are giving compassionately to a person, you're being who to them? You're being Jesus to them, and they are being Jesus to you in receiving the help, the compassion that you give to them. There's a song by Michael Card called In His Distressing Disguise that mirrors that very image. Pretty cool song. All right, anybody else? Yeah, Paul.
Well, a little story.
Yeah.
Maybe some of you have already heard it, but for Christmas, a friend of mine, classmate, his dad signed him up in the Army.
Oh.
See ya, you're of age, you buy it. So my dad brought him home, and he gave him all my Christmas presents. I didn't have anything to open, not even socks or underwear. But he got my socks and underwear. It was a good lesson for me.
Yeah, neat. Very cool. A great example.
It was a good lesson at the time.
I wasn't so sure. But I knew I was getting socks and underwear. I was getting that since I was itty bitty.
We can always use them.
Yeah.
Very good. Well, last thing, number 9. Romans 12. Paul writes, therefore I urge you, brothers and sisters, it's printed on the bottom of your page. It's printed on the bottom of your page, Ms. Joyce. Mr. Wars. There you go.
Yes.
Therefore I urge you, brothers and sisters, in view of God's mercy, to offer your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and pleasing to God. This is your true and proper worship. Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, and then you will be able to test and approve of what God's will is, his good, pleasing, and perfect will. So, what do these words have to say about our Christmas preparations, celebrations, and gift giving? What can they add to that?
It's not about Santa Claus.
It's not just about Santa Claus, right? Okay to have Santa Claus, but it's not about Santa Claus. Just offer your bodies as a living sacrifice. What seems odd about that phrase?
Usually the sacrifice wasn't living.
Exactly. That's exactly right. The sacrifices that people brought were never living. They were always a killed animal. Right? But now he says, offer your body as living sacrifices. You're not going to literally kill yourself, But you do need to put to death what? The old Adam, the sin, the nature that wants more, right?
Worldly desire.
Yeah, you put to death that so that you can live more confidently in Him. He can live through you. Yeah. So offer your bodies as living sacrifices. All right, well done with our gifts. Next week we're going to take a look at the countdown to what the cost of Christmas. We're going to look at that story that we preached on last week and dive into that story a little bit more. The holy innocents being slaughtered and how that shows us the cost of Christmas.
So Don was wondering today, since
Yes,
he
ma'am.
wasn't here, if there were free samples of the gold, frankincense, and myrrh.
No. Got none. No frank samples.